Today we're celebrating one of my absolute favorite days of the year, Star Wars Day. So for today's craft, we are going to make crayon resist Death Stars. This craft is very, very simple. You only need a few things. You need some black watercolor paint, glue, scissors, white crayons, something to make your circle with, and construction paper and a white piece of paper to start out with. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first step is to trace out your Death Star. I'm using the top of one of my pans because the size was just perfect for the Death Star, so gotta be creative. There we go. All right, now next is to create our design. What you're gonna do now is you're going to take your white crayon and you are just going to trace along the circle here that you just created. The more pressure you apply to the paper, the better it will turn out when you paint over it. Okay. Now you really can't see the white crayon, but if you kind of look at it from an angle, or if the light can hit it just right, you can actually see what you're drawing, which will be really nice when we get to the Death Star part. Okay, so most important thing to do now is to draw the super laser. It's the most important part of the Death Star. So go ahead and do that. All right, so once the super laser is done, you're gonna go ahead and now create the rest of your design for the Death Star. It can be however you want it to be. Again, the more pressure you apply, the better it will turn out. All right, there you go. So next you're going to paint over the white crayon on your Death Star using black or gray watercolors. So let's go ahead and do that. And as you can see, your Death Star is starting to take shape. All right, so the next step is to let the Death Star dry for a little bit. As it dries, you'll notice that the white crayon is becoming a little bit more clear. Again, it just depends on how much pressure that you used when you were applying it to the paper. But once it dries, we will go ahead and cut that out. Once your Death Star has dried, you can go ahead and cut this out. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your Death Star and whatever color construction paper you chose, and you are just going to glue it down. I recommend using a glue stick, but if you have just a glue bottle, that'll work too. That's all I have. All right, here we go. Now I'm gluing it on the side just so I can leave space to write a message here. You don't have to do that. There you go. The final thing, if you want to, you can include a message, Star Wars themed. So go ahead and write that. There you go. I hope you enjoyed this craft today and enjoy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you.